Hello and welcome to The Broken Sword. Today we are looking at the most powerful and iconic axes from Middle-earth.
Build me a throne worthy of Mordor.
A couple of weeks ago now we released a video on the most powerful swords of Middle-earth, and with that it is only fitting to follow it up with the other weapons of Tolkien. So today is that day, and I thought we would continue with the melee type weapons first and look at the most powerful axes. Now before we get into this, I would also like to say that this list will not quite have as many entries as the sword one, as really axes wielded throughout Middle-earth were not as often named in the same way as swords were. But you will see what I mean.
And my axe.
So let us start off with one of the most well known to all those fans of The Lord of the Rings, and that is none other than with the axe wielded by Gimli, son of Glóin, a member of the Fellowship of the Ring. There is a little description of it in the writings, to the point that this is actually all we ever really hear of it. Gimli the dwarf alone wore openly a short shirt of steel rings, for dwarves made light of burdens, and in his belt was a broad-bladed axe. But obviously, we also read within the books of many of the orcs it kills, and we see the same in the movies. So although it is never named like some other weapons, as Gimli plays such an important role within the War of the Ring, it is definitely one of the most iconic. And as a little bonus thing here about the movies, some people say that in the movies Gimli finds the legendary axe of DURIN, which we will come to shortly, within the mines of Moria, as he leaves the mines with a different axe that he is seen entering with. It is said that the one he picks up in Balin's tomb is that of Balin's, and it is rumoured that Balin himself had found DURIN's axe during his time there. However, there is no real evidence to suggest this is at all canon or in any way written about. It's just a bit of a fun theory, but we will come back to this later. Now let us move on to an axe that was actually named, and this means heading all the way back to the first age of Middle-earth for its creation. This axe is named Drambolek, and it was wielded by Tuor, and this is the same Tuor who was the son of Huor, who in turn was the older brother of THALION, and Tuor would be the father of Eärendil, and therefore as well, grandfather of Elrond and Elros. I hope you're still with me, and we will actually come back to Húrin in a little bit. But as for Tuor, this lord of the House of the Wing was the tallest of all the DAIN, who, if you are not sure, were the group of noble men of the First Age, ancestors of the Númenóreans that had taken up arms against Morgoth in the Wars of Beleriand. Tuor would dress in elven armour and arm himself with a shield and Drambolek, so almost as though he represented each race. He was a man who wore elven armour and also wielded the weapon mostly used by the dwarves. Truly a character worthy of his own video in the future. Tuor would achieve great deeds with his great axe. He would fight with it in the Fall of Gondolin, where he would slay not one, not two, but 3 Balrogs. And not just these, he would also kill the Lord of the Orcs named Othrod in this same battle as well. Not a bad effort by any stretch. But as for the axe itself as well, it received its name Drambolek, or sometimes just Drambor, which meant thunder sharp, for it smote both a heavy dint as of a club and cleft as a sword. This axe would be passed from Tuor after his escape from the Fall of Gondolin to his descendants, where it would eventually make its way to Númenor as an heirloom. However, like many other great things, after the events of the downfall of Númenor, this great axe would be lost forevermore. Next we will continue our time in the First Age, but have a quick look at the Lord of Belegost, Azaghal. He was a great king of the dwarves, and he too wielded a great axe, although this was another that was not named. But having no name did not stop the iconic action he performed in the battles he entered. Azaghal and his dwarves joined the Wars of Beleriand in the 5th battle, the Battle of Unnumbered Tears, also known as the Nanaeth Anodiat. Here the dwarves of Belegost would cover the retreat of the sons of Feanor from the terror of the enemy forces that were led by the dragon, Glaurung. They would surround the dragon, and due to their great craftsmanship, even the scales of this dragon could not withstand the blows from the dwarven weaponry. Glaurung would kill Azaghal though, but not without the dwarf wounding the dragon to the point that he had to retreat. So, although the Dwarven king never gave a name to his axe, he would have managed to at least deal a blow or two to the dragon Glaurung with it, that, although it meant his life was sacrificed, it meant the sons of Feanor could live to fight another day. Definitely iconic. Now we shall fast forward back to the Third Age, with this example being another of those where the dwarf who wielded it is more well known than the axe itself, but they are also one in the same thing with all of these great warriors. This is where we look at DAIN Ironfoot, son of Nain, and the one that we all know from The Hobbit. He was known for wielding a red axe, and with this axe he performed one of the greatest achievements outside of the gates of Moria. Up the steps after him leapt a dwarf with a red axe. It was DAIN Ironfoot, Nain's son. Right before the doors he caught Azog, and there he slew him and hewed off his head. That was held a great feat, for DAIN was only a stripling in the reckoning of the dwarves. So again, although this was not a weapon that was named, what it achieved in the hands of its wielder must surely mean it is iconic as well. And also, perhaps you haven't read the books and that quote about Azog and DAIN confuses you a little? Well, we do have a video on the true story of Azog, not the movie one, so please go and check that out if it may interest you.
Tell this rabble to leave, or I'll water the ground with their blood!
Now, this next one is yet another of those axes wielded by the dwarves, but then again, can that be any real surprise? This axe is debatably one of the great and most iconic to its race, and that is HURIN'S axe. Now, this weapon was a great heirloom to the dwarves, and it was the one wielded by none other than DURIN the First, also known as DURIN the Deathless due to his unnaturally long life. This DURIN would be the one who founded the realm of Khazad-dûm, and here in Khazad-dûm it would remain. For when it was deserted in the year 1981 of the Third Age, the axe was not taken as well, and so here it became lost. That is until none other than the dwarf Balin, yes, that same Balin from Thorin's company, led an expedition to go back here to reclaim Moria, and his group actually claimed to have found this heirloom when they arrived here. However, as most of us know, sadly, this group did not last, and the axe became lost once more in 2994 when this colony that Balin attempted to set up managed to wake up the drums in the deep. So although the movies may have liked to tip their hat to this axe, it is never said that Gimli ended up finding the same axe himself in any of the writings, so most likely this axe was just left to be lost to the evils that dwelt there.
He is dead then.
Now we move on to our last couple as we look to another great man from the First Age, HURIN THALION. It is said HURIN was the greatest and mightiest warrior to come from the race of men, so of course his weapons come with him. And I would actually like to know, would you all like a video on a summary of the children of HURIN's story? Why not leave me a comment of HURIN the Cursed if that may interest you at all? But anyway, HURIN not only wielded a sword, but an axe as well. And it was an axe in his hand when he achieved one of his greatest moments, and actually I believe this to be one of the greatest moments Tolkien ever wrote. During the Battle of Unnumbered Tears, HURIN and his brother Huor held off the forces of Morgoth so that Turgon could escape to fight another day and keep the secret of Gondolin safe. Huor would be slain by an arrow piercing him through the eye, but HURIN would keep on fighting. Axe in hand, he would continue to stand alone and cry, Aure en Tuluva, meaning, day shall come again. And this was every time he killed one of the enemies. Now, he would not just cry this once or twice, nor 1 or 2 dozen times, but 70 times in all. It was only the weight of the bodies that he slew that finally trapped him in, causing him them to be taken captive by Morgoth. This man and his axe could not be stopped. I'm sure the image of that weapon struck fear into the hearts of so many orcs, trolls, and even Balrogs. And also, I know not everyone is for adaptation, but I feel like if I never get to see that moment on screen, then I will always be well and truly gutted. Maybe we'll get it one day. And now for our last one, and this may be a surprise or not to you to find out that one of the most powerful axes ever wielded was by the forces of evil. And this by none other than GOTHMOG, the Lord of Balrogs and High Captain of ANGBAND. We do in fact have a video on the full story of GOTHMOG, but if you aren't completely sure on this creature, he was a corrupted Maya turned Balrog, and he was one of the chief servants of Morgoth during the First Age of Middle-earth. This terrible dark power wielded an axe that was black, and it was taken into many battles where it killed the likes of Feanor and Fingon, as well as being in his hand as he led the assault on Gondolin. It is surely a weapon that too would strike fear into the hearts of all those who saw it coming against them. So that's where we end our list of what we consider some of the most powerful and iconic axes throughout the histories of Middle-earth. Weapons have such a strong presence throughout all of Tolkien's writings, so they are truly deserving of deeper dives. And of course then my next plan is really to look at the most legendary bows and all the arrows that come with them too. Let me know what you think of that. But to finish off, axes weren't just used by heroes after all. They were used as the chief weapons of the vast majority of the Dwarven race through their times. They would often not just carry one, but others as backup weapons as well. After all, if your axe gets bedded into something with a nervous system, you may just need a second. It was not just the dwarves who favoured them though. Although not for battle, the Númenóreans were skilled with these weapons, albeit not usually for war, but instead for the act of deforesting areas so that they could build their ships. So although not for directly killing the forces of evil, the power of their navy led them to have one of the strongest presences ever seen in Middle-earth, so definitely a very big helping factor. The forces of darkness too would enjoy an axe from time to time. As I said, Balrogs would enjoy the use of one, and there would be so many orcs that would have this weapon of choice too. And not just these, but even just from the Lord of the Rings, we read that the Easterlings wielded great axes during the Battle of the Pelennor Fields. All in all, nearly all races would have members of those who favoured these great melee weapons. And well, who can really blame them? So I hope you all enjoyed this video for today, but now it is time for my question for you all, which is, if you could own any of these axes, which one would you choose and why? The legendary Lost Axe of DURIN, the axe that took down the Balrog's Dramboleg, the mighty axe held by the greatest warrior HURIN, or a completely different one to these? Please let me know all of your thoughts and opinions and reasons why in the comment section below. And now just quickly to finish off, I would like to mention our other channels, all of which will be linked in the description below, and also to shout out our patrons. Firstly, we have our Divine Power tier members of Kevin, Abram and Matt. You are all awesome. And a big thanks to our Fire Demon tier members of Nashith, Denversteel and Gregory. And as well, I cannot forget the Wizard Staff tier members of John, Andrew, Bill, Evil Chameleon, Jennifer and Finrod Felagund as well. Every single one of you is a true legend of the Brohirrim. Finally, if you have managed to reach the very end of this video with me today, I really hope you have enjoyed everything you have seen. And if you have, please hit that like button on the video, hit the subscribe button too, share the video with some friends if you think they may enjoy it. All of these things massively help us out. And so, thank you if you have managed to reach the very end of this video with me today, and I will see you next time on The Broken Sword.